Dark Phoenix, also marketed and later released on home media as X-Men. Dark Phoenix is a 2019 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics X-Men characters. It is a sequel to 2016's X-Men. Apocalypse, the seventh and final mainline installment in the X-Men film series, and the 12th installment overall. It was written, co-produced, and directed by Simon Kinberg in his feature directorial debut, and stars an ensemble cast featuring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, Sophie Turner, Tye Sheridan, Alexandra Shipp, and Jessica Chastain. Dark Phoenix tells the origin story of Jean Grey's transformation into the Phoenix, which is triggered by a cosmic force that enhances her psychic abilities. It follows Jean's struggle to avoid hurting the people she loves when the Force unleashes her repressed trauma that causes her to become emotionally unstable and unable to control her powers. After X-Men, Days of Future Past 2014 erased the events of X-Men The Last Stand 2006 from the series timeline. Kinberg expressed interest in a new adaptation of Chris Claremont and John Byron's The Dark Phoenix saga in a future film that would be more faithful than his previous attempt with The Last Stand, which was met with a mixed reception, with even Kinberg and co-writer Zach Penn ultimately unimpressed with the final product. The new adaptation was confirmed as a follow-up to Apocalypse in 2016. Kinberg signed on as director in June 2017, with the majority of the cast set to return from Apocalypse. Filming began later that month in Montreal and was completed in October 2017. The entire third act was reshot in late 2018 following poor test screenings. The film was dedicated to the memory of X-Men co-creator Stan Lee, who died on November 12, 2018. Dark Phoenix was theatrically released in the United States on June 7, 2019. Produced and distributed by 20th Century Fox. It is the lowest-grossing installment in the main series, and the second lowest-grossing X-Men film behind The New Mutants, 2020, which was released in theaters during the COVID-19 pandemic. It grossed $252 million worldwide on a $200 million production budget, and Deadline Hollywood estimated the film lost $133 million due to its high marketing and distribution costs. It received mixed reviews from critics. In 1975, 8-year-old Jean Grey is involved in a car crash which seemingly kills both her parents, leaving her an orphan. Professor Charles Xavier takes her to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, where he promises to teach Grey to use her gifts for good. In 1992, during the first mission of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, the shuttle is critically damaged by solar flare-like energy. The president calls upon the X-Men to save the astronauts, and Jean is struck by the energy. Miraculously, she survives the blast and absorbs the rays, saving her team's aircraft. Her psychic powers are greatly amplified, but her emotional state begins to deteriorate, leading Raven Darkholme to scold Xavier, claiming he puts the team in unnecessary danger. As she becomes increasingly stressed, Jean's powers become harder to control. She accidentally unleashes her power on mutants celebrating at Xavier's school. Xavier reveals to the rest of the X-Men that he placed mental blocks in Jean's mind to suppress her trauma. Raven is shocked at Charles' revelation. Meanwhile, the blocks in Jean's mind are destroyed by her enhanced power, and her childhood trauma returns. She travels to her hometown after seeing visions of her father. Jean finds her father alive. He had survived the car crash and forsaken her. She recovers complete memory of the accident and realizes that, unable to control her powers at the time, she had accidentally rendered her mother unconscious at the wheel with telepathy, causing the crash and killing her. This realization causes Jean's powers to spiral further out of control. The X-Men arrive, and after a brief skirmish in which Peter Maximoff is injured, Xavier freezes everyone to allow Raven time to persuade Jean to come home. Jean lashes out against Raven, accidentally killing her, and flees, while Hank McCoy weeps over Raven's body. Hank confronts Charles, considering him responsible for Raven's death. Jean travels to the island of Genosha, a mutant refuge run by Eric Lehnsherr. She asks for help in controlling her rage, and he initially agrees. U.S. military helicopters land on the island demanding Jean's surrender. Jean attacks them, but Eric stops her and angrily banishes. Jean is found by Vuk, the leader of a shape-shifting alien race known as the Deepari, who assumes human form. Vuk explains that the cosmic force she absorbed had wiped out the Deepari home planet and consumed everything in its path until it was drawn to Jean. She offers to help Jean learn to use the force safely. Hank leaves Xavier's school and allies with Eric and his faction of mutants in an attempt to kill Jean in New York City. Learning of Eric's plan, Kurt Wagner teleports the X-Men to New York to save her. While the two factions battle, Eric confronts Jean and is defeated by her amplified powers. Xavier arrives and convinces her to read his memories, which helps her former personality resurface. Feeling remorseful, she offers to let Vuk take the force from her. While the transfer takes place, Charles realizes that it will kill Jean and that Vuk intends to use the force to conquer Earth. Scott Summers blasts Vuk away with his optic beam, and Jean loses consciousness. U.S. government troops arrive and subdue both mutant factions. All of the mutants are placed on a train headed towards a containment facility. Vuk and her Deepari forces attack the train. When the Deepari overpowers the soldiers, one frees the mutants from their restraints. Charles and Scott convince Hank, Eric, and his allies that Jean is still inherently good and not beyond help. Now united to protect Jean, the mutants deal with most of the Deepari attackers before Vuk arrives and heads for Jean, defeating each mutant who attempts to stop her. Charles confers with Jean within his mind, and she forgives him for his errors, understanding that he did what he did out of love, and that the X-Men became her real family when her father abandoned her. Jean awakens, saving the mutants from Vuk's attack and an ensuing train wreck.